Well, I can't believe I get to say this, but welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, Brad Winderbaum.
I
It's such a privilege to have you on here.
made it to Geekcentric.
You
Yeah,
did it.
dude. Yeah, man. We're thrilled.
Yes.
My name's Justin.
And my name's Nate. Yeah, we're stoked to have you.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Look, we've been feeling very nostalgic about this show, given that it is its final season. And with that, we wanted to ask you just to kind of kick things off here. Looking back at the series, do you have a favorite episode or moment that stands out as a defining example of what if was set out to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, it's really that's like such an unfair question to choose your favorite moment or episode in an anthology.
Right.
But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a favorite moment. And and it is when Infinity Ultron hears the Watcher.
Mhm.
It is like it doesn't matter how many times I watch that, it gives me chills every time. I remember when we cracked that in the room and all kind of looking at each other being like, this is like the greatest
Yeah, it was like fourth wall breaking, right?
thing.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. It
Totally.
was. Yeah,
It
no,
reminds me of I don't know if you guys are Grant Morrison fans, but when Animal Man broke the fourth wall in that comic book, like
yeah,
that was kind of the inspiration for that
yeah.
moment in a lot of ways.
That's really cool. There's
so Animal Man confirmed as a random cameo this season, maybe? We don't
Oh
know.
man, I wish.
You
No,
know,
I'm
given
all about
the
the crossover.
That's it. That's it. Well, speaking of crossover, I mean, given the focus on the multiverse in the larger MCU, did you ever feel the need to align this series more closely with the events happening within the live action story, or was the goal always to keep this story more of a standalone exploration?
Well, we always looked at it as it's an anthology first and foremost, but that it would have an overarching narrative, especially when it comes to Uatu and his story as the Watcher and his struggle. And it's even though all three seasons culminate by the finish line, it is a slow burn and kind of keeps that anthological element of the story throughout. But if you look at the final episodes of each season as kind of a Watcher, Act One, Act Two, Act Three, I think it does stand alone as a Watcher story.
yeah,
And in terms of tying to the MCU, like we do follow very closely the mythology that's being set up for the multiverse as the MCU unfolds, whether it's kind of the revelation that the multiverse exists, or the idea that it's all now harnessed by Loki sitting in the center of the multiversal tree of stories, or as will be revealed over time, why this was the perfect moment to culminate What If in its third season.
Mm.
that's awesome. That definitely has me excited. Now, look, Marvel Television has expanded its storytelling through episodic content, and it's introducing new stories, characters with greater depth that in some instances it offers more depth than film might allow at times. With the shift to television, what has that taught Marvel Studios as a whole about storytelling and connecting with audiences?
We've learned so much. I think that's been, we've learned more in the last few years making television than, any era in the studio. It's
Mhm.
been the learning curve has been very steep for us. Not just because of how we tell stories, but also the changing landscape and the medium of making television, especially in the streaming era, which is quite different than when we were making, shows for ABC and Netflix. Um, uh, and when you look at especially let's just look at the last two shows, X-Men 97 and Agatha All Along. These are like kind of, they're playing at the edge of our fandom. They're targeting like very specific parts of the people that love this stuff. And from there, it's blossoming out into the greater culture, into the greater fan base, um, uh, as opposed to as opposed to trying to make like movies on television that speak to four quadrants right away. I kind of feel like you know I just always think about the end of Avengers Endgame being, the biggest achievement, you know, of any of our careers, and just a milestone in film in general, and such a like a moment that is, who knows if we'll ever see it again, and it's impossible to recreate, perhaps, but on a mass scale, especially on a television show. But can we create that feeling for like one person? Can we create that feeling for like a portion of the fan base,
Mm.
and if we can do that, then we've done our job, I think. And then it'll grow from there. I think you know, then it'll make people kind of feel that love and joy that they do whenever we hit those high moments in what we do.
You had a great year with X-Men 97 and Agatha, and more to come, obviously, with What If as well. But yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment. It's really about kind of understanding the expectations of what each of these shows are meant to do in alignment with what's already been done, and still giving fans like little more interest in different pockets.
Now, speaking of milestones, Marvel Animation has been killing it on the TV side. Like, obviously, we're big fans of X-Men 97, but even like with like I Am Groot and different stories like that, I want to know, because I think this could be a really good milestone. Is when is the day going to come when we get to see the Marvel Animation banner on a theater screen?
Ooh.
We talk about it. I think it's just about having a property that is that is a film.
Mm.
I think one of the things we've learned, going back to your previous question, a film, to me, it's 2 hours. It's like a statement. You're buying a ticket, you're sitting in a theater, you're with a crowd. It's a giant screen that's dominating you, and it is something to say to the world. You get 2 hours to do it. Versus a television show, which is a longer form, it's like more of a conversation with the audience. First of all, there's more people go into making it. Usually it's a bigger ensemble. There's more of a call and response, I think. And if you're lucky enough to make subsequent seasons, there certainly is. I mean, believe me, as we're working on X-Men 97 season 2, we are listening to the feedback from season 1, as we did with What If, and I think it's just a huge opportunity television has. Um, and that to me is kind of the that's going to be the thing that tells us whether or not it should be a movie. Like, is this something that, like, this is definitely this world, this character, this moment, this is a story that is going to be best told in 2 hours like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. You got to find the right story that makes sense for the big screen. Because the stories that you've been telling, obviously on the smaller screen and the streaming, it's making sense. It's having a conversation, like you're saying, with the audience. And again, with 2025 on the horizon, we talked about 2024 being amazing. You guys got some serious stuff on the TV slate next year. How do you feel that these projects are going to continue to evolve the way Marvel tells stories?
It's this the film slate, the television slate in 2025 is like it's varied in an incredible way. It's like it's 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 kind of, it feels to me like walking into the comic book store and being able to choose between a a dark Batman comic, or like a bright Superman comic, or an X-Men comic that's like talking about the world around you, or a Thor comic which is heightened fantasy, otherworldly escapism. Um, that's what the slate feels like to me. It kind of shows the breadth of the Marvel universe in a really great way. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man comes out in January, and that is like a fun Spider-Man story back to his comic book roots in high school, ensemble piece, and then it's followed right up by Daredevil, which is this like dark as
Totally.
hell, grounded crime story in New York. There's really something for everyone this year.
Awesome. That has us very excited, and we love that idea of just kind of everything feeling different from one another to give, again, another a breath of what the MCU is looking like.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us on the Geekcentric podcast. We were absolutely thrilled with being able to just talk to you. And
Yeah.
I'm also thrilled just coming into this. My co-host was saying I have too much stuff in my room. And I'm so thrilled to see that Brad Winderbaum is just like me.
His is organized though. His looks like unpresented,
True.
scattered.
Mine's
More
all
organized
over
than
the
it seems, believe me. I'm kind of drowning in it at this point.
Awesome. Thank you, man. And have a happy holidays.
Happy holidays, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Cheers.
Take it easy.
See ya.